Hey Travis, this is Keaton Everett with ABC, going over your pitching video from camp. I'm going to go through and talk about your motion and your delivery, and break it down frame by frame and look at a couple spots. But I mean, overall, it's pretty solid for your age. It's you're doing a lot of good things. You're getting extension down the mound. You're getting out over that front foot through release, and so for that age, it's really good. So we're going to go through and talk a little bit about each step and kind of go from there. So we're going to go back here to the start. Alright, so your initial setup. So we're going to go, let's see which one we want to use. Alright, we'll use this one. Okay, so here's your initial setup. Alright, head right there, sort of the midline of your body. Okay, so we're going to go through and look at what sort of happens, what your body's doing as you start. Alright, so you can see how there's that lean back before you get going. Go back here. So basically you want to start out nice and balanced, but you want to start loaded back. Alright, not only is it less efficient, takes away some power, but it also is something that we need to sort of start back there initially, so that momentum, it's just more of a momentum, a balance issue, and it also helps us get quicker when there is a runner on base and we are going from the stretch. Is that if we're starting out there out front, then we kind of sink back, it's going to be too slow. We're going to sort of have to artificially speed everything up and rush everything. All right, so just get that initial load back here. So we'll go back, we'll erase this here. So here's that point right here. We'll draw that midline there. So that's all that little shift needs to be, is just that little initial shift back with your hips, with your body, so you can get in that position. All right. So now at the height of your leg kick, one of the most important parts of delivery of power is what our hips are going to do, and we basically want to keep our hips closed as long as we can, as far down the mound as we can. And so at this point here, you can see those hips just aren't really getting closed off a whole lot, and it's just going to sort of make that foot and those hips pop open a little bit early. So what you want to try to get to is right from this point is take this knee, sort of come back at an angle with it. All right, so then at your leg lift, you're going to get to, probably it's going to be about right here, and that foot's going to be back there. So now those hips are closed off, and now they're ready to go down the mound closed, and go from there. All right, another thing too, it's a key on, is what your glove's doing. All right, you can see it, you come set up high, you can see your hand start to drop, and that ball comes out of your glove, looks like it's about right here, as that leg's kind of still coming up. So we don't want to have that happen. We want to still have the ball in our glove right to that point that our legs get up and we start forward. All right, again, we've talked about sort of efficiency of delivery, limiting our movement, so just get that glove down here to start with, because having it up high doesn't create any extra velocity, it just creates timing issues. It's sort of a hard tempo to get. So just bring those hands down there, so then they aren't moving, so you have a better reference point as to where you're going to break your hands. So now if they're still here, that ball's still in your glove, we're able to break our hands at the same point. That's one of the biggest things for consistency, is breaking our hands at the same point over the rubber before we're going too far forward. And so just make sure that those hands are kind of cleaned up a little bit, so you can repeat that delivery and where those hands are breaking. All right. So now once you get those hips closed a little bit sooner, as you drive down that mound, you're going to see a little bit of sort of sync with your body and a little bit of posture change. You can see how your body just kind of sits over that line, and then you start forward. All right. It's good to sort of get the hips going forward, but we want to try to maintain that posture. You get a little bit of lean back, but we just want to try to maintain this posture through the next couple frames instead of just kind of go down and then forward. We want to try to initially sort of start sinking forward. So now at this point, you might be around here a little bit more. So we just want to try to get more hips going initially instead of that lean back, all right? Because then you can see everything kind of gets extended. You can see this legs kind of staying straight for a couple frames, and then you hit that foot strike, all right? So we just want to try to get to that point where, you know, probably in this position, you know, your hips are probably in this position, you know, right here. So now you're just sort of down, you're just kind of coming out. Your body's probably more in this position. So you just got to get going a little bit more. All right. So then that foot strike. So once this front foot first hits the ground, which looks like it's about right, it's sort of in between these two frames. All right. Your gloves down over that front foot. It's good. You got good angles in your arm. All right. Your back hip starting to turn, creating that torque. You know, the torque is basically your back hip starting to turn forward before your shoulders. You can see you got that going good. All right, and so then through that release point, you can see your glove staying out over that front foot a little bit. It's dropping a little bit, but not too bad. But the biggest thing that you need to kind of work on is to keep your weight back. Oops, wrong one. Keep your weight back a little bit farther in that back leg through that release point, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Because that foot strike, all right, you're landing out front a little bit. And I can tell that because this front knee's over that ankle. All right, so if you're able to stay in that back leg a little bit longer, what you're going to get is a little bit more stride length, but that knee's going to be kind of behind that heel. So then through your release point, you're going to see, if you release the ball, let's see, that's probably about your release point, but you can see this back foot's off the ground, and you're a little bit flat releasing that ball. All right, we want to try to create angle. We want to still have that back foot still on the ground, driving through everything, and that's going to get our head and our chest down over our front foot a little bit more. All right, then that's going to create, you know, a release point back down here, which is closer to the hitter, but it's also going to create more angle too, which is good. So it's just a thing to stay through that back leg a little bit more. Once you hit that foot strike, stay back, and then drive through that back leg. So that release point, that back foot's still on the ground, and you're using all that body, all that lower half to finish. All right, but you're doing good. You're keeping that glove out. You know, it's almost there. Now it's just a matter of just getting that leg going, and you can see that it kind of hangs in this spot for a few frames and then finishes over. You know, we should see that leg just finish with so much power and drive that that back foot's, you know, flying up off the ground as you're getting out front. So, you know, again, it's you got a good sort of sense of everything, good motion, good feel, and now it's just sort of you know, starting back initially, get those hips closed a little bit longer, but most importantly, staying back longer through that delivery. So anyways, good luck this year. Hopefully you have a great time. Thanks for making it out to camp, and hopefully we'll see you again with ABC.